Hi guys, today I found another post on Reddit's personal finance, which is very helpful. I think it's a good question to ask, especially for someone who's starting off. The username is Detective OK 1469. Basically writes, I'm a 20-year-old, uh, and at a young age, I wanted to put my money to work. So I invested in stock market. Now I have $2,500, but I also have $6,000 in credit cards and $500 in my checking account. Um, After reading through some things, I found that I wanted to have a little bit more in emergency fund and my goal is to get to $2,000. My question is, should I sell stocks to fund the emergency fund and paying up the credit card and invest in my education and savings? Or should I leave the stock alone and cut back on and to save and pay off and then start investing? Um, if you actually read the actual post itself, there's actually a lot of good recommendations and things like that, especially from our username bad_DNA. He actually put a lot of free resources like books, blogs, and podcasts. First and foremost, uh, really in the future, I hope I can make it into that list myself, right? So I can one day somebody can recommend maybe a book that I will write in the future, or my blog in the future, or if I ever get to start a podcast, maybe something like that, or just YouTube channel. Hopefully, somebody can say, hey, go check out this guy. Maybe he has a lot of good things to say and things like that. Hopefully, that's the case. Um, First and foremost, a couple of good things. He's very young, right? Which means that he's starting early. He said he started educating himself. So I guess he's been reading some things, reading books and some blog posts and online stuff, which is great to kind of like help him manage money better. Another is that he actually has $500 in his checking account, which is again another good thing. Is that you have a little bit of extra cushion just in case something happens. I know your goal is to get to 2,000, which is also a great thing. Um, and also, it sounds like, and I know I didn't really mention it here, but in the actual original posting itself, it sounds like he's got a little bit of extra cash flow, a positive cash flow at least. Sounds like he's saving. He's able to have surplus sort of about 25%, give or take. It's coming out. It sounds like it's left over after all said and done. But it doesn't really go into the each specific numbers as far as income or how he's getting it, what kind of job he has. Also doesn't talk about any of the expenses at all, other than he's got $6,000 in credit card debt. So I'm gonna assume a few things here. One is that your overall expense currently is very, very low, to a point where it sounds like you may be living with the parents, maybe, or living with a roommate or something like that. And the other thing is that also your income. Obviously, if you have low expenses, but has no emergency fund and no extra cash coming through, because it sounds like it's gonna take a couple months for you to be able to pay off the $6,000 in debt without using the $2,500. That also means that you have a relatively low income as well. So those are some of the things that I quote unquote will assume in this video. The first thing I want to talk about is that obviously sell the stocks, just like a lot of other people have said. I don't think holding onto the stock will do actually anything for you or against you. You can sell it if you want to sell it, keep it if you want to keep it. But I think my immediate thought is to sell it, only because, like, if I were to think about it as in, because again, I'm making a little bit more income than I'm guessing that you are, right? And if my debt was, instead of 6,000, let's say $60,000 in credit card debt, and if I had, instead of having $2,500 in stocks, but if I have $25,000 in stock, what would I do? And if I had $5,000 in emergency fund, the first and foremost thing I will do is probably sell all my stocks, and put that money towards paying up the credit card debt. That would immediately have lower credit card balance, meaning lower monthly expenses going out because of those bills and stuff like that. I wouldn't touch the $5,000 at all. So that's the reason why I make that recommendation to you. One of the things that I might caution you about selling the stock is that whether or not that money is tied in a retirement account, such as 401k, traditional retirement account like a 401k or a IRA, because one of the advantages of putting money into being able to put the money into one of those two accounts is that you wouldn't pay tax as an income tax, and then you can get to defer it until your retirement age. But if you actually pull the money out sooner than that, typically, again, I know there's some other certain criteria that you can meet, but in many cases, you would have to pay you have to pay the tax that you didn't pay to put the money in there, right? But two, also to pay the penalty on top because your age, and so I would definitely have to be looking into that. And the last thing I want is for you to pay the penalty just in order for you to avoid paying a little bit of interest, which it's just like you're robbing Peter to pay Paul, right? So I just don't know if that's the thing. But outside of that, I definitely recommend, or even money in the HSA. I think it's a very same concept, right? But outside of that, if it's a traditional brokerage account, definitely sell it and do so. If it's a Roth account, like a Roth IRA or Roth 401k, as long as you're only touching the principal portion of it, I think you have a way of getting the money out without paying penalty for it, just because, again, you've already paid tax to the government when you're putting the money into it. So that's something that you can kind of consider if you have one or the other or both. And then after that, definitely I will focus 100% of that extra money into paying off the debt. I know your goal is to get to $2,000 in an emergency fund. You're $1,500 away, so maybe do that first. So that way, hey, I got that covered already, right? But the rest of that after that 1,500, maybe the rest of the 1,000 plus any of the 25% excess in income that you have, definitely put all of that towards paying up the credit cards. Get rid of that 6,000 as fast as you can, and be debt free. And not so much so on being quote unquote debt free, but more so on again, it's the same thing, like not paying interest and all of that. And then, rather than investing back into the stock market, I would definitely look into the recommendations on the books, the podcasts, the blogs and stuff like that, just to get a little bit more idea on, instead of putting so much into it, because I think one of the lessons you can take away from here is that, one, obviously emergency fund, right? But also two, you don't want to get to a point where you have to do this again, where you're putting the money into it, but you have to pull it back out because of this and that. And one of the things about that I was a little hesitant to tell you about paying the debt off by selling the stocks was because number one rule from Warren Buffett is to never lose money. You don't want to lose money. So I actually done that a few times, and I've still done some of that here recently, where I play with some of the other strategies and I lost money on it, which is dumb. But I did that, and just because I was playing with it and stuff like that. But you don't want to lose money if you don't have to, right? Like if you have a way to avoid that and mitigate that, you don't want to lose your money. So you don't want to sell stocks at a loss, which I'm not sure if you're making money or losing money. I'm guessing if you're 20, you started investing in 18, chances are you probably lost a little bit of money, right? But you will be losing money by selling, right? Because you probably bought it at a little bit higher price than what it is now. So that's something to consider. So I would definitely say invest in education first, and investing in yourself in order to increase that income, right? Because obviously, right now, again, if my assumptions are correct, longer down the road, sooner or later, your expense has to increase, and it will increase pretty substantially without you making a huge amount of adjustment in the lifestyle. You may be living in another place very similar to this where you are at, but rent will go up. You may even have to pay for that, but utilities and all of that, everything else will go up. Cost of living will go up. It's not fun to have that expenses, because sooner or later, with the increase in expense, you may have to get into more debt, unless you have that extra money, unless you have that emergency fund, unless you have increased your income sufficiently enough where you can achieve all of that, you can do all of that. So first and foremost, before you invest any more dollar into the stock market or what have you, the next best thing, I would focus solely on yourself to see if you can try to increase your income. That may be actually starting a business, right? I just don't know your personality. I don't know who you are, so I can't really say one or the other. But it's definitely an investment in the business, in yourself, your business that you own 100% of, right? Or whatever, partnership with somebody else, but not into a stock market where, yes, you're becoming an owner of that company, but your portion is so small where your decisions don't make the difference in the course where the company is going or headed, right? So there's nothing you can do to change anything like that, with the very small to little the asset or the cash that you have, right? So like it won't make a difference in the course of where the company's headed. So I definitely will say, hey, focus on increasing your personal income first, and I wouldn't do so by, hey, some people may say, hey, I can buy some dividend stocks and it will increase my income. Yes, while that is also true, having that very, very little income drip that gets added to it, I just don't know if it's enough for you to, at this point, to do something like that. I would say definitely save up a whole lot more money. So when you do that investment, whether it's $10,000 or $50,000 or $100,000 or whatever, that the income drip from that is significant enough that you will see that as and count that as an actual income, right? And some people say, hey, you want to do that over time as a dollar cost average and stuff like that, which is all, again, great. But again, at this stage, that may be something down the road. But at this stage, at your 20, 21, and again, assuming that you have a very low expense for now, assuming that you have a very low income, I will do everything and anything I can to focus on increasing that income, because even down the road, even as you get older, there are certain things you can do to kind of try to minimize the expenses as much as possible. But once you start increasing your income, you become that higher income person. And at that point, even if something happens, you can actually go back and become that, again, that higher income person, where you can still increase that. So like if the expenses go up, you can always bring it back down to a certain degree, but without your income ever increasing and becoming that person who is a higher income earner, your ceiling is that and you can only go up to that point. So definitely focus on myself and earning more than income for myself rather than investing in somewhere else. Hope this helps. And hopefully, you have some great takeaway from here. Thank you for watching, and until next time, thank you.